Picture a single computer in 1960, humming inside a college basement, wired to a screen no one had seen before. Donald Bitzer built it to teach. The Soviets had stunned America with Sputnik, and the nation demanded engineers faster than its classrooms could produce them. Bitzer's answer was radical. Let one machine reach many minds at once. He thought he was solving education. He was laying the foundation of something else entirely. The terminals he connected would soon carry messages, games, and arguments between strangers. A teaching tool was quietly becoming a community, decades before the world was ready. Before we go further, if you find these hidden histories as fascinating as I do, hit subscribe. You are about to find out how a machine built to teach quietly invented the world we all live in now. Donald Bitzer was not trying to invent the internet. He was trying to fix a classroom. In the years after Sputnik, America was gripped by a single fear, that it was losing the race for scientific minds. The Soviets had reached orbit first, and the panic ran deep. The nation needed engineers, scientists, and technicians faster than its universities could train them. The bottleneck was not ambition, it was arithmetic. One teacher could only reach so many students, answer so many questions, grade so many papers, before the human limit closed in. Enrollment was surging, but the supply of qualified instructors crawled behind it. A professor lecturing to hundreds could transmit information, but not attention. Real teaching required response. A student asked, a teacher answered, the loop closed. That loop did not scale. Human attention could not be mass-produced. Bitzer, a young electrical engineer at the University of Illinois, saw the conflict with an engineer's clarity. The problem was not the lesson, it was the delivery. What if a machine could do the patient work of tutoring, presenting material, posing questions, responding to each answer, for thousands of students at once? In 1960, he began building exactly that. He called it PLATO, Programmed Logic for Automatic Teaching Operations. But a teaching machine demanded something that barely existed yet. It needed to display information clearly, instantly, to many people in different rooms. The cathode ray screens of the era flickered, lost their images, and burned out. Bitzer needed a display that held its picture without fading, so he invented one. Working with colleagues in the early 1960s, Bitzer co-developed the plasma display panel, a thin grid of tiny cells that glowed a steady orange and never flickered. The image simply stayed, persistent and patient, the way a teacher's words might linger on a chalkboard. It did not just solve a screen problem, it made the whole vision possible. The second half was the architecture. Bitzer did not build hundreds of separate computers. He built one powerful mainframe and wired many terminals to it, each sharing the machine's central brain. A student in one building and a student in another were not using separate devices. They were tapping into the same living system at the same moment. That decision, one mind, many windows, would change everything. Bitzer thought he was distributing lessons. He was connecting people, and he had no idea yet what they would do with it. The genius of PLATO was not only that it taught, it was that it let anyone build. Bitzer's team created a programming language called Tutor, designed so that instructors, not just engineers, could write their own lessons. A professor with an idea could sit at a terminal and author a course. The system invited creation, not consumption. And once you give thousands of curious people the power to build on a shared machine, they build things you never imagined. The students saw it first. They were connected to the same mainframe, glowing on the same screens, present at the same instant. So they reached through the machine toward each other. In 1973, two young programmers, Doug Brown and David Woolley, created Talkomatic real-time chat rooms where people in distant buildings typed to one another live, character by character. It was a chat room 2 decades before the phrase existed. Then came PLATO, Notes, built by that same David Woolley as a teenager. It was a system for posting messages others could read and answer. It was, in every meaningful sense, the first online message board, the ancestor of every forum, every comment thread, every discussion that has ever sprawled across the modern web. Students wrote multiplayer games. They shared screens. They argued late into the night with strangers they had never met. No lesson plan had ordered any of this. PLATO did not just teach students, it gathered them. The teaching machine had become a community, and the community had become the point. If you want more stories about the inventions hiding inside the things we take for granted, subscribe, because this is where it all escapes the lab. The ideas did not stay in Illinois. People who grew up on PLATO carried its conventions outward, into companies, into research labs, into the architecture of the networks that followed. Online discussion, real-time chat, shared virtual space. The patterns they had taken for granted became the assumptions of the entire connected world. By the time the public internet arrived, the social shape of it had already been rehearsed, years earlier, on orange screens in a Midwestern lab. Donald Bitzer built a machine to teach. His students used it to connect. That gap between what was designed and what was discovered is the whole story. The real invention was never the screen, never the mainframe, never the clever language. The real invention was the discovery that a network's deepest purpose is not to deliver information to people. It is to deliver people to each other. Every online forum, every late-night argument, every stranger who became a friend through a glowing panel, all of it started on his machine.